Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. We will start by having two opening addresses, one by our President, Mr. Paul Abela, and another one by Minister Miriam Dalli. Following that, we will have an overview of the schemes that we are actually meeting today to go through and analyze a bit in more detail. As you might remember, a couple of weeks ago, the latest COVID support measures were either extended or announced, and therefore we are meeting today to understand a little bit in more detail how these work, take your questions, answer them, discuss together. In fact, we have with us Mr. Kurt Farrugia, who is CEO of Malta Enterprise, who I am seeing there, who will be also answering questions for us. The questions will be moderated, in fact, by myself, as I usually do. Please use either the chat or else, preferably, if I may ask you to use the Q&A. Good morning, Minister. And good morning, good morning. I also thank Mr. Siva Lul for being with us this morning, and he will be helping us as well in the Q&A session. I wanted just to remind you that for sessions like these, to make sure that you are not missing out on the information, you should register on our WhatsApp communication channel. The number, which will be posted also in the chat, is 4999995199. It is being put on the screen as we speak. All you need to do is add that number in your contacts as SME Chamber or whatever you want to call us, and then send a message to us with the word subscribe, so that you can register for the communication system. Now, without further ado, I will pass the floor on to Paul. But should you have any questions while we are going along, because now we will have one intervention after another, please post them in the Q&As, and we will take care of them as soon as the Q&A session arrives. Good morning, Paul.
Abigail, good morning, Minister. Good morning, Kurt, and good morning to all. Thank you for having attended and honoring us, Minister. After a long and hard wait, we are finally moving from hope to enthusiasm. 2021 provided an extra leg of difficulty that businesses found it very hard to bear, needing more help. One of the reasons we are here today is to understand how support measures have been extended. At the same time, COVID has changed our economy and our priorities permanently. We are at an important crossroads where businesses are looking at what the new economy has to offer and taking renewed decisions of how they want to grow. There are some interesting schemes that we are going to explore together that will inject new energy, the right kind of energy, in business to flourish. I take this opportunity to congratulate Minister Dalli and her team, Kurt at Malta Enterprise and his team, for their stellar work during this pandemic. I can tell you that their support to us and our members were unparalleled, and as they did their very best. They really gave it their all. I can tell you, I think that your constant willingness to help, really hearing and acting, and this is the most important, Minister, that we admire in you, that you don't only listen, but you act. And to this, I would like to thank you very much and wish all of you a very good webinar this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Before I go on to the Minister, I would like to join Paul to thank you for everyone who is on this webinar. These three people, Minister Dalli, Kurt Farrugia, Steve, and others, are very close to our heart because they really help us. They have really supported us during COVID. we have really found a good ear to hear us and also to take action, as Paul has mentioned. Minister, in your good hands, good morning.
Good morning, Abigail, or good morning, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Allow me to start straight away by thanking both Paul, Abigail, and the Malta Chamber of SMEs. And I would like to thank you not only for organizing this webinar, but most of all for being such a crucial contributor to the process which led to the launch of all the initiatives we are working on and the ones we already launched to help and support enterprises in our country. For me to be here, it's not only a pleasure, but I feel it's my duty. I'm seeing already some messages from your participants. Please keep those messages coming in. It is when we hear more from you that we understand what are the challenges that you are facing on a day-to-day basis and how we can come up with possible solutions. During the past months, we sat down with your representatives, probably with some of you that are present for this webinar as well, to understand firsthand what are the challenges that you're facing, but most of all, to discuss possible solutions. We had a number of instances where you yourselves came with solutions, where we sat down and we saw how best to design such solutions to help you in these challenging times. None of us ever imagined that something like this would happen. More so, we didn't envisage that something like this would take over a year. We've been 40 months facing this pandemic with all its challenges along the way. So it is a learning curve for all of us. And I look at yourselves as Chamber, but also as the people that you represent, as our partners in this journey to make sure that we come up with those solutions that really and truly can make a positive difference. If there are things that are not working, if there are things that you believe we need to fine tune, please let us know. We're here. We don't have the attitude of feeling that everything we launch might be, the best solution ever. If it doesn't work, we're willing to listen. We're willing to amend. Ultimately, we're here because we want to support our businesses. My philosophy is to support businesses because I do understand that by supporting businesses, we are supporting work as well. We're supporting our workers, and all the incentives we did were devised primarily to help businesses flourish. I'm very proud that in Malta we have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit that I want to make sure that we manage to support and ultimately that we protect jobs. So if I had to look back during the past months, but also looking forward, I look at the SME Chamber as an entity that once again proved itself as a key enabler of ideas. You provided us with a strong multi-sectorial reach, and you were a very reliable partner. So as a minister responsible for enterprise, I'm very pleased to have this open and frank relationship with all of you. Because, as I mentioned earlier, it allows us to tangibly support the Maltese business community in such unprecedented times. As you all know, unprecedented challenges ultimately call for unprecedented measures and unprecedented support. And this is what Malta Enterprise has been providing during the past 14 months. I know that Kurt is here. Allow me to say thank you to Malta Enterprise, to Kurt as CEO of Malta Enterprise, but to all the staff at Malta Enterprise. And I would like to highlight a bit this point, because during the past 14 months, Malta Enterprise, apart from the normal work that they have been carrying in the past years, they had to also address this moment, these challenges to help support businesses. And that means that we continued with our normal work, but over and above that, we wanted to make sure that we come up with the right measures, that they are rolled out on time, that we are providing liquidity to businesses, as to make sure that we can support businesses on our islands. So if I had to look back at the past 14 months, what the support that we're speaking of reaches support to the tune of around 500 million euros. We're speaking about €500 million of support to our enterprises. We have assisted much more than 100,000 employees during the past 14 months, and we've assisted around 18,000 businesses. I'm mentioning these numbers because it gives you also an idea about the extent of support that we are providing, and that we want to continue providing, as we already promised, towards the end of this year, to those businesses that were under our hardest hit. So despite all this support, because I'm not here to speak to you and just speak about the support that we are giving, because despite all the support, obviously we are cognizant of the sensitivity of the juncture of this economic cycle of our economy, and we are definitely, as I mentioned, not unplugging any support to the Maltese business community that really requires our support at this very sensitive time. Restrictions are gradually being lifted. It is also very positive that we are moving to become the first European country to achieve herd immunity. So we are upping the game also in terms of business support through three-pronged strategy. Apart from providing the support that is needed, we want to provide visibility. I know how visibility is important for all of you, because it would allow you also to plan ahead. I know that we were working in certain limitations. So when I spoke to some of you, Abigail, you were present as well, the issue of visibility came up. So we tried to see how we can support, understanding that our limits from the health aspect that all of us had to work within. And we want to continue doing that, because most of the businesses, it's true, will be opening completely in the coming days, but I do understand that there are some businesses that would still have restrictions, and we need to make sure that we assist those businesses that are the hardest hit. And that brings me to our second aspect of our strategy. We want to continue extending the assistance to the hardest hit businesses. But most of all, we want to move just from providing support. And we've already embarked on this, we'll continue working on this. We want to stimulate investment with a clear economic direction. As we mentioned when we launched, also the measures that we are seeing to help businesses look forward, to help business regenerate, to help businesses grow and create jobs. We are also providing a clear economic direction of where we want to go. It's about digitization, it's about creating green jobs, it's about looking at Gozo as a place to invest in, it's about sustainable enterprise, and these kind of businesses will be given even greater help when they are looking for incentives to support them. So we all know how important visibility is, because obviously you want to plan ahead, particularly in these months of economic recovery. So that's why we announced earlier in the day and in the year that the wage support will be extended till the end of the year, and that there will be a gradual and slow reduction in this measure, which will be planned, but it also will be met by growth-oriented investment aid. So together with the Malta Chamber, we have been working hard to provide this visibility on the reopening phases for certain sectors and also activities, such as, for example, the case for weddings and the creative sector. And we are doing this literally as we are speaking. If I had to focus on the 20 million euro package that we have launched and we have spoken about, there we wanted to ensure that assistance is still granted to businesses which were hardest hit by March, particularly by the March restrictions. So that's why we have extended both the rent and also electricity support to these businesses. But as I already mentioned, our flagship initiatives are now aimed at supporting you, because we want you to invest in your own future, we want you to invest in the growth of your companies, but also in the long-term value of your businesses. In a commercial world that we all acknowledge has changed, and obviously now requires new ways of doing business. So we have significantly upgraded what initially was termed as the business re-engineering scheme. Now it's called Change to Grow. Now it's applicable to self-employed and micro businesses. Before it was applicable to those companies or businesses that employ more than 10 people. Now it's also available and applicable to self-employed persons. And I believe that that is a really good step forward that can help your representatives and all of you who are following to really look at this scheme and see how you can utilize the scheme to change and also grow. We are also supporting businesses which have been hit the hardest. We launched a new scheme. It's called Restart because it is aimed at restarting these businesses, and it allows entrepreneurs not only to get good advice on how you can look at new businesses and reshape your business, but most of all, it will support also the implementation phase once you have that advice and you start implementing that advice. But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we want you to aggressively invest in the economic niches of the future, and we're here to support those businesses. That's why we launched the Smart and Sustainability Investment Incentive, which is aimed at providing strong financial support in the form of cash grants and also tax incentives to all businesses across different sectors in their investments in digitization, technology, and sustainable related investments. And a last point, which I know businesses were really looking forward to, we extended the tax certificates by another 3-year cycle. This is an unprecedented move, which will allow us to give to our businesses around 80 million euros in additional liquidity. We are here to understand more from you what you require at this point in time, how we can make sure that the incentives we launched are really addressing your pain points, and how we can help you look forward and help your businesses grow. It has been a challenge for all of us, but we are here to support you because we believe in our businesses, we believe in our entrepreneurs, and we want to make sure that that talent, that energy and determination doesn't go to waste. Let's work together as partners and make sure that we come with the proper incentives and continue working on fine-tuning when needed so that we can address the challenges that you are facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Minister. And in fact, many big strides have been made when it comes to visibility. There is still a level of uncertainty of what COVID, how it will develop and everything. And sometimes we hear a little bit of bad news that throws us a couple of steps back. But something that we always insisted and the ministry appreciated fully, and that is one of the reasons why we thank you, is that whatever the government can do to give visibility, something that we unfortunately take a little bit for granted, but also given the difficult situation businesses are in, is that we have visibility of the weight supplement till the end of the year, which was something that month on month was really causing a lot of stress for businesses. So yes, we have made very big strides, and now hopefully we are turning the page and we are looking into the very interesting schemes that we will be discussing today. And when businesses will be deciding on the next steps forward, they will have a certain level of substantial support and also guiding them of how they can make a good investment and how we are going to be stronger once COVID is over. Okay, so without further ado, Kurt, can you tell us more about these schemes that we have been talking about this morning already?
First of all, thank you. Just biex nikxif ftit il-Ministru għandha l-birthday. So happy birthday. She's at work anyway, but anyway, I had to say it.
Happy birthday, Ministru.
We would have felt realizing afterwards. Happy birthday, Ministru.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you very much to the Chamber of SMEs, and you've been a fantastic partner in this tough journey, but so far we've managed to overcome most of the challenges, even though other challenges persist. So I'm going to try to share the screen so that we go through the schemes that we talked about so far. So we have two kind of schemes, basically the direct support measures, which most of you are by now acquainted with, and the incentives aimed at stimulating economic activity. The top-up of rent support, the scheme will be extended by a further 50% over the amount that you have received already, so that will be 50% of what you get, which is a top up over last year's. Just to remind you, we had calculated that the rent amount over a period of a year kept at 2,500 for those that have more than 5 outlets, and a number of employees, according to the guidelines, that assistance went up to 7,500. These will now be capped at half the rate that was kept last year, based on the amounts that you will get, but it is also applicable, open to the new applications for those approved under the wage supplement scheme in 2021. The electricity support, it's going to be the same scheme as last year. We will be covering June, July, and August 2021, basically when all the business is reopening, so that basically we can pay half the electricity bill, and by the end of summer. The one-time grant, this is for those companies that are still closed, beyond May 10. This is an incentive that will be launched very soon. We're in the final phases of concluding the guidelines and getting approval for the scheme. Change to Grow, the Minister went into some detail on this. We've changed it. I think it's much more open and much more flexible for businesses that are smaller than 10, that have less than 10 employees. So it's open to micro businesses. We're doubling the amount up to 10,000 euros, and we're including an implementation phase, which is, I believe, crucial, so that whatever you get from your reports that you will get in terms of regenerating and changing, then you'll get an extra amount to implement the project. There's the restart incentive. This is, I think, very important for those companies that have closed, or those self-employed that decided to fold their business. We will be giving a further incentive of 5,000 euros up to 10,000 euros for implementing any business advisory and an implementation phase, and this will go up to 10,000 euros. One thing that we are working on is psychological support for entrepreneurs. As you all know, entrepreneurs that faced difficulties to the extent that they had to fold their business have to undergo a lot of stress, and particularly for those entrepreneurs and those small businesses that have been doing this for all their lives, and now they're basically they close down their business and they're looking for a job, or they want to reopen their business. They undergo stress. So basically, we are working with NGOs to come up with specialized programs intended as psychological support to entrepreneurs. The Smart and Sustainable Investment Scheme, this is quite an important restart and regeneration scheme. Of course, we're in a phase where we're still designing the assistance. As you know, there's a process. You have to design the guidelines, then go to the European Commission to get approval under the temporary framework or the applicable regulations. So this will take a few weeks more to launch. This is basically aimed to assist companies kickstarting new investments after the pandemic, and it will signal a policy direction of government, which is basically to assist companies to take it to the next level. And there will be further assistance to the investments made in Gozo, investments made by startups, and investments that will directly create new green jobs. This is the incentive that the minister spoke about just a few minutes ago. Basically, we're extending the tax credit certificate issued through Microinvest. This is something that I know Paul has insisted a lot upon. So we owe a lot to him on this. He was pushing very hard so that we can extend these tax certificates. Basically, we're recognizing that 2020, 2021, and 2022 are not normal years, so we're extending those by another 3 years, 2024, 2025, and 2026. So this is basically saving or putting or postponing those 78.4 million when basically companies will go hopefully back to profits and they can claim their tax certificate. On this, it is important to note that the guidelines are already online, and we will be receiving we'll be asking you to submit the request to extend the tax certificate in the next few weeks. That is all, and I try to be as quick as possible so we take as many questions as possible.
Very good. Thank you very much for that, Kurt. And I would like to introduce you to Steve Ellul, who is an advisor to the ministry. And he has been in close contact with us and also with many of our members in order to help devise also these schemes. Steve, maybe you can give us a bit your take on the schemes that Kurt has been explaining now.
Good morning, Abigail. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for organizing all this. Not much to add, quite frankly, to what Kurt and the Minister just mentioned before. The idea, basically, of these schemes is to support businesses in this crucial juncture of our economic cycle. We know we're in a quite sensitive spot. Paul mentioned before that we're at that moment in time when we are now kickstarting back our economy. So we want to make sure that every incentive and every euro we dedicate towards this kind of investment is directed towards supporting our enterprise, but also supporting the restart of our economy. And we can only do this thanks to your recommendations, your advice, the time you invest with us and with the people at Malta Enterprise to make sure that we design these schemes in line with what the industry requires. And this is the objective of these schemes that Kurt was describing. Assistance, so rent and electricity, that is very important. We know we've had some very difficult weeks in the last quarter, but most of all, the economic direction and support in terms of investment for the immediate future, because we believe that is very, very critical, very, very important. We will be we will be going into a different economic environment post-COVID, and we want our SMEs, we want our enterprises to be well equipped for the immediate future and beyond. And this is where the Change to Grow comes into play, where the Smart and Sustainability Investment Scheme comes into play. This is where we really want to send why we really want to send this economic signal as well. I'll conclude because I'd like to hear the questions as well. Just a quick comment, because I managed to see a question before, I think from Martin Vella, in relation to the creativity industry and the mass events. As you mentioned before, Abigail, we are very sensitive to this sector. We know that this sector is very, very important for our economy. We know that this sector is possibly one of the most hard-hit sectors. And we know it has not just a strong potential for the economic growth, but also has ripple effects on other sectors. We are sitting down with the Chamber of SMEs, and we are trying to set up an acceptable protocol, which we will try to move forward and push forward in order to get some visibility, which is also very, very important. Sometimes we overlook the importance of being able to plan ahead. And for this particular sector, which has a relatively long lead time to market, I mean, you plan an event, you don't plan an event overnight, you plan an event for a number of months. It's very important to have this kind of visibility. So we are working with yourselves, with your representatives on this, Martin, and we'll definitely be able to push forward your recommendations. Enough said from my end. happy to support you, of course, and happy to listen to your questions.
Thank you for that, Steve. Yes, we will start taking a bit of questions. Many have wished you a happy birthday, Minister Dalli, and they are very sorry that we can't have a cake to share between us, but maybe we will leave it as part of the gradual reopening later on.
Thanks a lot to everyone. I will never decline an offer of cake. So, you know, we can, if we'll manage to have cake, I don't know, 2 months down the line, I'm in.
Exactly. So
Thanks
we have
a lot.
Very good. We have a question from Nick Kurt. Good morning. Is the extension of MicroInvest tax certificates automatic, or do we have to apply?
Basically, it will be automated. They will receive an email, and there will be a small application just to confirm that they are extending they are requesting to extend the tax certificate. But basically, beneficiaries will receive an email from us for to apply for the extension.
Okay, very good. A similar question, but related to rent and electricity. Good day. Do we have to reapply for the rent and electricity scheme, or our previous application will be taken into consideration?
There will need to be a process in line with EU regulations. The process for beneficiaries, however, will be triggered by Malta Enterprise once again. So you will be receiving from us like the monthly wage supplement. It's still going to be automated, but of course we'll need to ask for declaration on the de minimis assistance, basically, as we did in other schemes.
Very good. I always suggest for those who are with us and asking about these things to keep an eye open, okay? So wait to see that you receive an email. If you don't receive this email, you can touch base with us. We will check if they have been sent out. We will also be sending you a reminder once they are sent out. But please keep an eye on these communications with Malta Enterprise so that you don't miss out or are delayed, because many times delayed are caused by these things.
Of course, I'd like to add that for those new applicants, for those that were accepted in 2021, they will probably have to apply. So those who are already on our wage supplement, they will receive an email. Those who have never applied for the rent and electricity scheme will have to reapply. Not reapply, basically apply for the first time. Because we ask for certain details such as the account number of the electricity account, and we'll also have to process the rental contract, which would be a new contract for us, and we would have to process that manually.
Yes, in fact, as you are mentioning, Kurt, the rent scheme was very, very laborious. And I know because I have passed a couple of members who have not heard from Malta Enterprise, but there is always a complicated story behind each and every one of them. And someone is asking, we still have not received any feedback regarding the rent subsidy.
Okay, so basically, I asked for an update earlier this morning where we've contacted more than 90% of the thousands that applied to receive the rent subsidy. We're almost there, just a few hundred, less than 300 contracts that we need to review and contact, and we are processing and paying accordingly. Hopefully the process will be ready by the end of this month, and all the applicants would have received feedback from us. Most of the cases, I have to add, we are asking for further information, or some of the information, or the information on the contract is not so clear. So as you can understand, we need to read all the contracts physically, read them, and then ask for any new information. So it's probably the only process that we didn't manage to automate over time, and that is why it's taking a bit longer than the other assistance.
Yes, and reading grant contracts sounds like a nightmare. I wouldn't like to be doing that.
Indeed.
But both Malta Enterprise and the Ministry are being very helpful with helping us when members don't hear anything. Many times, the email will either be in their inbox and they have not realized. Others, there is a bit of lack of information. So do get in touch if you have not heard from Malta Enterprise, and we will try to see what the problem is.
One thing that I would like to add is basically, you know very well, Chamber of SMEs, because you're part of it, Business First, and the helpline 144 have been answering a lot of calls. So I would like to thank the employees at Business First and your support to Business First. Of course, if you don't manage to get in touch through any of the channels, do not hesitate to go through the Chamber. They've been very supportive, and we've tried to keep an open channel all the time.
Yes, in fact, it was a very big joint effort. All hands had to be put at work so that as much as possible we managed to reach everyone in the smallest, shortest time possible. Yes, do get in touch with one of these entities, including us, and you will surely get a reply on where your application stands, anything missing, anything you need to do. At least you would have visibility of what is happening. Okay. You mentioned, Kurt, a number of schemes, and I have included, but I think I should include this in the chat as well, where more information will eventually be found on the schemes. I sent it now on the chat, which is the website, yes. Obviously, as you are saying, certain schemes are still in the process of being fully released. So we, through contact with Malta Enterprise and contact with the Ministry, will be informing members when full information is available, when the schemes are actually open for application. But this is the place where they should check for more information, yes?
Yes, I think it's very important to explain the process. So once we agree on the schemes and we agree on the package with the Ministry of Finance through the work that the Ministry, even through Steve, have been doing over the past weeks, basically then the process would go to the technical people at Malta Enterprise. They would sit down, translate those into guidelines. Of course, there would be certain technical matters that we'd need to clarify, even through the State Aid Monitoring Board and the European Commission. So that is why after the launch, it takes a few weeks to get the guidelines sorted and seek the European Union's, the European Commission approval for the schemes. We do not envisage that there would be problems, but some minor details. They would always come back with some questions and some amendments to the schemes. So that is where we stand at the moment. The first scheme that we will be launching, and because I saw in the Q&A that we have a question, is the one-time grant for the companies that are still closed down, and they were still closed after the 10th of May, and that's we're at the process of notification, and it should be released in the next days.
Okay, very good. A number are asking about contact persons. How best should they go about reaching out in order to ask about these schemes, in order to see how to apply? Should they go through Business First?
I suggest yes, Business First through helpline 144. There are also the all the information is on the website regeneration.maltaenterprise.com. There are also the contact details, email addresses. We've been answering thousands and thousands of emails and thousands of calls.
Very good. Kurt and Steve, maybe I would like you to explain a bit more in detail the reasoning behind the Smart and Sustainable Investment Scheme, because it is a very, very interesting scheme. And I know that many are already starting to think about what could they do under the scheme, what would they benefit from, what kind of projects, what is the time frame. So that they can start already putting their mind at work, waiting obviously for the full guidelines to be released, but at least they would have a little bit of an idea on what is behind this and where Malta Enterprise and the government wants businesses to get to via the scheme.
Fidek, Steve.
Okay. Yes, basically, this is a very important scheme. It's basically our flagship scheme in this program. The idea is to use the scheme as a directional signal for all companies across sectors. So the idea is not to, rather than trying to target one particular sector, the idea would be to spread out the support in a quite an aggressive manner, I would say, across different sectors. The eligibility criteria and the eligibility of the projects, we're still working on them, and I can tell you that Malta Enterprise is investing a lot of effort and a lot of time on this. Up until yesterday, we've had quite a long meeting, myself and Kurt's team on this aspect. Unfortunately, I had to postpone some other important meetings due to that, so I apologize again. But the objective, generally speaking, is to help any company, any enterprise in Malta, which would like to invest in anything which, and I'm being very, very generic here, in projects which can make Maltese companies more sustainable and more digital. We're doing so for one particular objective. We want our companies, our success stories today, to become the success stories of the future. And in order to do so, we need to align our companies with the objectives which we have set for ourselves as a country. So we want businesses to be more efficient, energy-wise, but also operationally. So any investment in automation, any investment in digitalization, we want our businesses across different sectors to be very, very visible online. And nowadays, when we're speaking about being visible online, we're not speaking about websites, we're not speaking just about web portals, we're speaking about investment in applications with a very high level of customer interaction, because this is really and truly the future. And Maltese businesses like ours, and small businesses like ours, really need to step up the game, in my opinion, in this kind of investment. We're also, in the scheme, we will also be supporting investment in green investment. And this is quite a wide, there's quite a wide spectrum here. So many companies are already thinking, as you already have already stated, Abigail, in energy efficiency, in investing in more energy efficient equipment, for example. But other companies are also thinking about business development, which is greener and more ecological. So we're seeing Maltese companies thinking about diversifying, for example, their suite of products, which would also include and therefore would also incorporate other products which today are not on the market. There's a market which is virtually untapped for ecological products. And we're seeing companies which in the past were never really connected towards the ecological spectrum or the green segment, and they are still investing in this segment. One particular case in point, just to highlight a particular example, we have property developers nowadays, which is not really a sector which is very much in sync with the green objectives, but we have property developers who are actually investing in green buildings. So I'm just saying this because the policy direction is very clear. We want all our companies to think green, to think sustainable, and we will be supporting those companies to the smart and sustainable investment. The scheme, and I'll stop here, Kurt, the scheme is still being designed, the details are still being designed, but the idea is to be very supportive in terms of investment aid that we will be offering. So it is intended to be a Kickstarter for our companies not just from a policy direction perspective, but also in terms of tangible support, tangible aid. So we're going to have a blend between cash grants, which are very, very important, but also tax credits, which are very important. And we're also stepping up the game for startup companies. We would like to see, and we are already seeing this, quite frankly, a lot of enthusiasm from startup companies which are thinking green as their first priority. So their product and their target market is the ecological market. And in Malta, I have to say that this segment, the green client base, is virtually untapped. So there is a lot of potential there. We're also stepping the game, so being a little bit more supportive for companies which will create green jobs through these projects, and of course for good-sitting companies. I think the minister mentioned this earlier on in her brief. So this One Sustainability scheme will be a very, very aggressive scheme in terms of investment aid, and it will be even more supportive for these kind of companies. But the idea is to really spread the support across sectors, so long as the investment being made is either digital, either smart, technological, investment in automation and digital visibility, and also sustainability in its wider sense of understanding. Sorry, Kurt, if I interjected.
No, I'm saying very good. Just to add something, the assistance will be up to 50,000 euros, and a further 20% in tax credits will be given for such investments. And basically, I concur with everything Steve said. The idea is to get businesses to the next phase, particularly after the pandemic, and particularly for those that have to or want to be ready for that new phase, which is what a lot of people call, but it's become a cliche, new normality. However, I believe it's going to be the normality. And let's remember that most businesses need to go and have to go digital. So the change to grow, which is the re-engineering of businesses, coupled with this incentive, which basically will help companies to go to the next level and to the next step, I think they can be very good tools for companies to re-engineer their businesses and include tools that will help them have their business more sustainable in the long term.
Yes, in fact, a good idea would be to work with a number of schemes because they are complementary to each other. So as Steve was saying, there is this scheme which is digital oriented, green oriented, but at the same time, it is very open. So it will not, because when we think digital and when we think green, sometimes we think that they're going to try to fit us into a box. But no, I think this scheme should and hopefully will be open to different ideas, different levels where business appetite rests, but also it gives a lot of room for creativity. So as Kurt mentioned, use other schemes that give you access to people who can analyze the business, who can tell you, listen, this is a good idea, but if you go a couple of steps further, you can do actually much more. So the incentive is very good, the aid is very good. Kurt mentioned up to 50,000 and also coupled with a tax credit. I don't know if there is a percentage related to the grant, Kurt, already or not.
Not yet. We're discussing the percentage of that 50,000. So
Okay.
We'll see. We're on direction of the ministry, basically. On this, we need to be aggressive.
Okay, 100% would be good, Kurt. If you would.
If it's 50% of the investment up to 50,000, so we're discussing this, and then another 20% that would go up to 70%.
Up to 70%, yes, and yes, that would be very good as well. So I'm going to just read two comments. I know that they do not fall exactly within the scope of this session, but I'm going to read them. We have someone commenting in the Q&A. I would like to flag an issue being faced by small businesses involved in providing tourism accommodation. who are being seriously disadvantaged with the measure which has been offered to hotels. Owners of licensed accommodation who have already sustained hardship due to the pandemic and now continue to be disadvantaged because it's this measure where we are working in a playing field which is not level. A couple can get a cashback of up to €400 for their stay in a hotel, which we cannot offer. Okay. Now, moving on to something else. Malta Enterprise have tied the rent support to ARM's electricity bills. What about cases where, as a tenant, the ARM's account is not in our name?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so the rent scheme has been tied to the electricity bill. What happens in the case where the electricity bill is not in the name of the tenant?
In that case, I think get in touch through Business First or through Malta Enterprise, and we'll see such cases individually. We've been having a number of these exceptions, so to speak. I know that in this case there are quite a number of them, and we've been tackling those manually rather than receiving the ARM's bill and basically put the money in the account. So what we are doing in such cases is we're seeing these cases individually and then assist according to the rules, of course, but process them manually.
Okay.
So if you'd like to pass the case through Business First or through any of the contacts that the chamber has, please go ahead, and we'll be in a position to process them.
Okay. There are two questions related to Microinvest. With respect to the Microinvest extension, tax certificates due for expiry in 2021, 2022, and 2023 will be extended by 2 years respectively, i.e. 2024, 2025, and 2026. Is it possible to confirm whether the years refer to basis year or years of assessment, please?
It's on years of assessment.
Okay, and apart from that, someone is asking, are there any plans to extend the Microinvest scheme for capital expenditure incurred in 2021? I cannot tell you how many times we received this question, Kurt, during the last months.
Yes, I think it's according to what we said already. So 2020, 2021, and 2022, right? Yes. So the new ones will be will be up to 2026.
Okay. Yes.
So basically, the new ones will go further to 2026. They can be used till 2026.
Mm-hmm. I know that the Microinvest scheme has been extended year on year, and always we see improvements and retouching to improve the scheme. I don't know if you can tell us, but so far we have always guided members that it has always been extended, and we have no reason to expect something like this not to be extended. But it is a frequently asked question that we are getting.
No, it is going to be extended. It is actually extended.
Okay.
Up to 2023. This is quite a recent thing, but yes, it is extended up to 2023, the Microinvest.
Okay, very good. Now, during our last webinar, Mr. Kurt Farrugia made it clear they are keeping notes, Kurt, from one webinar to the other.
Keeping notes myself.
That employees who were not on the original wage supplement could be added for the last lockdown, so covering the last period of business closures.
That's
there isn't
right.
a question actually, but that's what they are saying. I don't know if you have any comments. That's
That's
correct.
right, and we've been implementing that through the.
Yes, because now they are saying that further to the last question that we made, their application has been refused.
Well, it depends on the case, and it depends on the employees that they have submitted. I mean, we found cases where there were employees that were submitted as replacements or that were included in as new employees, but they were found to have a job elsewhere or have a full-time job elsewhere or have some form of income through some other means. So in that case, the applicable regulations and rules would apply, and in that case, they would be refused. If it is not the case, and there is some sort of misunderstanding, or maybe some information through Jobs Plus was not updated by the previous employer, and these issues, please get in touch, and we'll try to solve each case.
Yes, exactly. Regarding the investment scheme, is it for future projects or for projects that we already started working on?
No, it's for future projects.
Yes, but Malta Enterprise has a number of schemes which are also for projects. Mostly they are tax credits, but obviously since you already carried out or started
There are other schemes that are already in place, such as the business development scheme. They are in part grants, in part tax credits, and they're probably they're available immediately for particular projects. In this case, what will be different is that this scheme will be more targeted. The schemes on offer at the moment, they're open. Of course, the same policy direction applies. So if someone is investing already in cleaner energy, we have the energy efficiency scheme. If someone is investing in new machinery that will digitalize the business, there are schemes that are in place which we can use for such investments. Of course, in this case, we wanted a new scheme that will be even more aggressive than the ones we have. But by all means, you can check our website under support, maltaenterprise.com, and under the section support schemes, you'll find the business development, and there are an array of schemes that would definitely fit any investments that are being done at the moment.
Very good. They are also asking in relation to this new scheme, the Smart and Sustainability Scheme. Can one apply for various projects or only entitled for one project per company?
It's something that we need to discuss. Probably as standard practice, it is for one project at a time. But I mean, based on such feedback, and this is something that will be important in the process of building up the guidelines and eligibility, etc. It would be good that we get in touch with the chamber and with other stakeholders to ensure that we are as flexible as possible in our guidelines and in the regulations, so that most projects are eligible for such funding.
Yes, agreed. And also at company level, as far as amalgamating different projects is possible, that is obviously encouraged, so that you can include them under one application and do a bigger project. Now, this is related again to the timeframes of microinvest. If you don't understand me, Kurt, we'll take it a bit later and we'll reply directly. Because it's a bit complicated even for me to read. Microinvest, will optional late applications, example, late application in 2020, applied for after May, will also be extended. As this is a late application, the certificate would be issued years after and would fall in year 2024, not year 2023, although investment in 2020.
So, of course, the same rules apply even for late applications. But anyway, the new micro invest tax certificate will be extended till 2026 for
Yes.
any investment incurred in the applicable years.
Okay. Someone is asking about a scheme related to property, I believe, because it is related to the stamp duty. I don't believe these fall under Malta Enterprise, if I remember correctly. No. Okay.
No. Construction, there was a very specific scheme which opened and closed, and
Yes.
we're in the process of evaluating each
Yes.
case.
And the person who asked before whether it is one project or more under the scheme said they will be totally different projects, so they cannot amalgamate them. So this is something that hopefully you can take on board and look into. Maybe analyzing the capability of the company to implementing more than one project at one time.
Yes, of course, there will be the de minimis rules that apply, which is basically up to 200,000 over a rolling period of 3 years.
Yes. Regarding water and electricity, now we are talking to Malta Enterprise. So Malta Enterprise helps businesses, not residents or domestic. Is the water and electricity grant from ME for residents only and not for businesses? Since we were informed, this is for residents only.
It is the other way around. It's for businesses only.
It is for businesses only, exactly. Just for you to confirm, because I think they prefer hearing it from you, is there an indication how long wage supplement will be available, please? Sorry if it was mentioned before, as I missed part of the presentation.
No problem. So as explained by the minister in a press conference, I think over a month ago now, for those hardest hit, the wage supplement will remain until the end of the year. Of course, there will be reviews as we go along. Hopefully, things will come back to normal, particularly in business. But so far, there is a general extension up to December 2021.
Okay. Are the applications for rent scheme and water and electricity scheme for 2021 already open? And what are the deadlines?
No, they are not open, but we are in the process of launching and opening the new applications, or actually sending the new round of emails to those eligible in the next few weeks.
Okay. Going back to the eligibility of the wage supplement, I have tried to apply for employee replacements in wage supplement scheme for 2 of our employees. However, the ME online form declines automatically any new employees who have been recruited prior to 1st October 2020. Why is there such a blocker? Or is this a system glitch? Example, someone resigned in June 2020 and we replaced them in September 2020, but the system does not allow us to submit this as a replacement. Kindly let me know who to contact to sort this out.
Okay, I think ideally they would contact Business First and they would get direct help on this. Because it's very specific to this case.
Exactly, and you can contact us as well, and we will pass it.
It could be that it's something with the we didn't get similar complaints, so it could be either from the system they are accessing or from their own devices. So probably it's best they contact Business First and they get direct support.
Okay. Someone is asking about the de minimis amount of whether this has anything to do with the COVID wage supplement.
So just to be clear on the previous question, they are eligible, so they can apply. So it must be something with the system, either ours or from their end. Sorry, Abigail, what was the question?
No problem at all. I forgot, in fact, in the meantime, yes, about the minimis. does the wage supplement have anything to do with de minimis? Is it included in their total accumulation of de minimis amount? No.
No, the wage supplement, the rent, and the electricity are not part of the de minimis, and because they're under the temporary framework of the European Union, which have different rules, and that is why they are called temporary.
Okay. Okay. Why can't we apply for wage supplement on new employees who were employed after the first wage supplement was initially approved? This is added incentive to employ new employees for companies.
Depends on the case. So if I understand correctly, they are new employees. Completely new employees. They're not replacing.
They're not replacing. They're completely new. Yes.
In that case, no, they are not eligible for the wage supplement, but there are other schemes. Basically, schemes through Jobs Plus, I believe.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did a session. There came from Malta Enterprise, and also there were representatives from Jobs Plus. And we analyzed different training and employment schemes. So reach out to us so that we can send you a recording of that webinar so that you can understand the different supports that you can get. And there are very good schemes that you can benefit from. So have a look at them, because even though they do not fall specifically under the wage supplement, you are eligible to get support for them.
I know it's a bit technical, but the wage supplement in a way is to supplement the workers, the employees that are already in employment. And that is why the new employees now are not eligible unless they are replacement of previous employees. So I remember we discussed this at length with the chamber when you have very specific cases when you need to replace a chef. You cannot replace a chef with someone without those skills. So a replacement is a replacement. Then we opened that up to or replacement so as not to discriminate such replacement. But completely new employment does not fall under the scope of the wage supplement, and that is why we direct the employers to Jobs Plus, where there are schemes that can be applicable for such employment.
A bit more on this, Kurt. Someone is asking, can you replace a part-time employee with a full-time employee on the wage supplement? And if they do, what kind of help would they be eligible for?
No, unfortunately, it's not possible.
Would they get a part-time equivalent or absolutely not possible?
I believe no. You have to replace a full-time employee with a full-time employee.
Okay. Is the COVID wage supplement extended to December 2021 for all businesses that are currently benefiting from it, please? Or is it extended for specific sectors?
So far, the announcement is for those that were the hardest hit, but I believe that it applies generally according to all the according to what they are getting now. So basically, the extension was a general one for those who are on the full wage supplement for sure, and the others, of course, this depends a lot on the way the economy fares now that the businesses are opening up, and according to policy direction, whether there will be some form of different rules that apply or some form of cutting back on certain sectors, as we had started back in 2020 when things were reopening. Of course, we are very aware that you cannot turn on and off a switch. So I believe that the policymakers are testing the grounds. The assistance will not stop abruptly, So if any changes will be required, these will be communicated in ample time for businesses to adapt. What I can definitely confirm is that the wage supplement will remain until the end of this year.
Kurt, more of a
Just as maybe to put everything into perspective, the minister earlier said we're close to paying $500 million. The latest round of closing down of businesses cost Malta Enterprise, of course, the Malta Scoffers, 35 million euros over a period of a month, which is basically more than 6 million euro over the previous month and almost 10 million euro on the month before when business was still open. So it's very important to keep that into perspective, just to understand the extent of assistance that government is dispersing week on week.
Yes. As Kurt said, these discussions on the wage supplement have been very lengthy. We had many meetings, and it is very difficult to find an absolutely perfect formula. And obviously keeping in mind that there is, that we need to see how much this will cost the government and everything else. But I still need to pass on a couple of comments, Kurt. Would it, in case eventually the wage supplement will be needed further, which nobody hopes that it will be needed further, in case the scheme would need to be revamped and everything else, would it not have been more fair to get wage supplement as a percentage of how many staff you had in 2019? Employees who left before 25th May 2020 are not eligible for replacement. How is this correct? Why are we still being ignored? We did not fire the employees. They left during April, May 2020. Were replaced, and because the new employees were not employed before March 2020, they are not eligible.
I'm trying to understand the case.
It's in the chat from
yes,
Rita.
I'm actually reading it.
Okay.
No, basically the scheme is what it is. So basically we've the scheme and the replacements are sorry. Yeah, that's, sorry, my colleagues are saying that it's a scheme as approved by the Commission, and basically the replacements are for those that started or left employment after June, and the replacement will be for those employees. I mean, I understand the concerns, but this is in every other case, it's a case where you have to draw a line or take decisions which will affect positively or negatively according to who is in and who managed to or who ended up out of the scheme.
Yes, and just to put everyone's mind at rest, that there is no particular justification of why something makes sense and doesn't. These kind of decisions are taken on budgetary restrictions. So it was a bit of a tug of war between us and Malta Enterprise trying to extend it a bit more, and we managed to get until March. Do you remember, Kurt?
And there was another consideration. Basically, businesses started opening up end of May last year and beginning of June. So we said that at that cutoff point, the employer would have the amount of employees that are enough to open the business, and from then on, any replacement would be considered as a replacement.
And just to put you into perspective, Rita comes from the diving sector. So they have had very turbulent times, and also they require two people always to dive together and things like that. So it is a particular and complicated business setup that is not very standard. That is why they might not fit the general rule.
I understand.
Note taken. Something related to de minimis. If I am not mistaken, the de minimis rule applies to the assistance to purchase computers for teleworking, but not for rent, electricity, and rate supplements. What other assistances would fall under the de minimis rule, since banks will now start to request companies who obtained an MDB loan to list what they received as assistance under the de minimis rule?
So the MDB loan is under the temporary framework, so it would not fall as de minimis, as de minimis under the traditional de minimis, I believe. I'm just asking our technical team.
Because to fill everyone in, at the moment, certain standard EU rules that permit the government to provide different support schemes for our businesses have been relaxed a bit, have been changed a bit, and therefore the government has departed a bit from the classical de minimis or other related structures.
That's right. So the scheme, the one-time grant will be under the minimis, and that way we can be quicker in terms of assisting businesses, and that's why we've put that under the de minimis that we know until now, not under temporary framework. And there are other schemes that are multi-enterprise schemes under the de minimis. So yes, certain rules will apply and certain declarations have to be made. I don't know if banks do require a de minimis declaration, but if that's the case, yes, businesses would need to submit such a declaration, which is not a requirement by multi-enterprise or by any entity, but is a requirement which is under the EU regulations. I don't know if I answered the question in this case.
For further details, they can get in touch and we will give them a bit of an explanation of which schemes would fall under the minimis based on what they have applied for. Dione from chauffeur-driven sector. Are there going to be cash grants and new bank guarantees for new family businesses? Example, setting up a new company, including new VAT number and new company number by buying a family business.
There are schemes under the family business unit. I suggest that whoever is asking gets in touch with multi-enterprise, either through Business First or directly through any multi-enterprise contact number, and we will be in a position to guide you accordingly.
Agreed. Okay. We are a restaurant. We're really reaching the end now. Last two questions. We are a restaurant before the first closure in 2020.
It's tiring to be put on this spot.
I know. The grilling is soon over. We are a restaurant before the first closure in 2020. We had a small complement of staff because in February we were closed for refurbishment. So in 2020, we only could apply for 10 staff. In summer 2020, we employed more employees to have the full complement of staff. This is similar to other cases that we mentioned. Yes. Is there a way to apply for these employees from March 2020 because we cannot apply for these?
I think it's 2021, right?
March 2021.
Yes, I believe they are eligible, but but please do send this particular case, and we'll be in a position to review.
Okay. And like that, the grilling is over, Kurt. Well done, but by now you're well trained.
Thank you. Well, we've been living this for the past 14, 15 months, and it's all the questions that we've been asked already, to be honest. Of course, I would like to join the minister to thank all the employees at Malta Enterprise, because besides the normal work that we have and that we still have to conduct, we have all this load on us, and all these questions and all the exceptions. So basically, over time, we'd find complaints. We had to face angry businesses to basically answer their questions. Sometimes, like in today's case, you find that there are borderline cases, gray areas that you need to clarify. We tried to be as diligent as possible in answering the questions that we face. You understand that with over 16,000 businesses that are on a wage supplement and that are eligible for any assistance that we give, sometimes we do have our issues and our faults as well. So that is why I'd like to thank, first of all the Malta Enterprise employees that have been terrific over the past 15 months, but also thank businesses that have endured such challenging times. And thank you for understanding that it's quite a challenge for us as well. We try to be of support as much as possible.
Yes. As Kurt is saying, it comes along with a very difficult patch that everyone is going through, but really everyone has been through a very difficult patch. I know the Ministry, Malta Enterprise Business First, it has come as part of a great personal sacrifice to them as well. They have worked tirelessly around the clock, morning, evening, and during weekends without rest, trying to reach as many people as possible. I thank you very much for that. It is something that, once again, we take it for granted, and maybe we see only our part of the story, but it's worth mentioning that, yes, we've been through a bit of a hard patch.
And indeed, it is our duty. It leads to some tensions at times, even over the phone, even sometimes with the discussions that we have with stakeholders, because I recognize that the Chamber of SMEs and other chambers, other organizations have been pushing hard to assist their members as much as possible. And I can say that Paul and Abigail are tough negotiators, but I think they've been very understanding as well when it came to sitting down and discussing certain details. And for that, I thank both Paul, Abigail, and all the people at the Chamber of SMEs for their assistance and for being understanding when we could not accommodate each and every request that we had.
Yes, but once again, still reach out, because there are other schemes. We sometimes get people fixated with the wage supplement, and there are other options. Including
as Steve would say, there are other avenues that companies can go through to be in a position to regenerate or obtain further assistance, not just through Malta Enterprise, but there are other schemes through other entities that would be very helpful to businesses. Sometimes we take the easier way of receiving the wage supplement by pressing an accept button or replacement and replace employees. But we really urge businesses to look at their business model, to apply for other schemes such as the regeneration scheme, the engineering scheme, and the Change to Grow, which will be updated in the next few weeks. because I'm sure that such a period, even though challenging, would serve as a good reflection period and regeneration period for the business for long-term sustainability.
Very good. Steve, Kurt was quoting you. I think he's ready to give over to you if you would like to say a couple
That
of
means
words.
that we're spending a little bit too much time together. But I just want to say a big thank you to yourselves for being such an important partner in all this, but as well a huge thank you to all the people at Bolt Enterprise and to all the entrepreneurs. We're all in this truly together. We're losing, we're going through some sleepless nights ourselves as well, particularly the people at Bolt Enterprise who have been so supportive of the business community in the last 14 months and before that, of course. And I think something we should take with us after all this is over is this kind of positive and proactive attitude that we're all having from the business community itself, but also from the people enabling the business community in this challenging period. So thank you. Let's keep on the discussion open. As we said before, we still have some issues to iron out in terms of visibility, in terms of the design of some schemes, and we're working very, very hard on those as well. So let's keep going.
Agreed. And let's all keep in touch. Okay, so we are not far away. We are very easy to contact. Keep in touch and we will see how we can help you. Okay, so with that, I say good morning to you all and good rest of the day. Thank you very much. Until next time, until the next grilling. Bye.
Thank you.